Hey guys, George at SoundTraxx here. This week we're going to talk about adding resistors to your PNP board for LEDs. Now, one thing I've seen some of you guys do, or at least I've seen some pictures online, when you solder the resistor, first of all, let's just talk about the resistor. The resistor comes, it's got a lead on each end about an inch and a half, something like that. And I have seen some of you guys where you'll take it and we'll solder them to the circuit board with the whole lead intact. And so I have seen some instances. Okay, so we've seen some pictures where you guys have soldered the whole lead of this LED or this resistor. And then what happens is now you have this entire area and lead of this LED exposed, and all these circuit board components and everything are all exposed, and then you'll solder the wire to the very end of this tip again. So this isn't the best practice when it comes to installing LEDs. We want to shorten these leads so that we minimize the amount of exposed wire, because especially if you're adding these extra lights, the FX3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, now you have all these exposed wires under there, and if these leads touch each other, you can cause all kinds of problems. So how do we fix this? Well, first thing, let's desolder this one off of the circuit board. Okay. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at how much you actually need for soldering in. So in this case, we can take most of this and discard it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about 1/4 of an inch, and then we're going to put a 90-degree bend into the end of the resistor. Now, because this is what's going to go into the decoder lead, you can cut off another and just leave another 1/4 of an inch at the end of the resistor. So you have this small L-shaped lead on the end. So now when we solder it to our decoder, we can simply put it through the hole. So now you have much less exposed wire on the end. Now what happens when it comes to the other side? Well, the other side we can do the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trim and leave about 1/4 of an inch lead on the one side. Now we're going to get our wire. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire, we're going to trim the insulation off the end, and we're going to tin the wire. So we put a little flux on the end of that. We're going to grab our soldering iron and a solder, and we're just simply going to tin the end of the wire. Just like that. Now what we can do, and this is where it's key, is you want to make sure to put the insulation on the wire before you make your solder joint. This is your heat shrink tubing. Now with a little flux on the end of the resistor, now you take your wire, you line it up, you have some solder on the end of the iron, and just like that, you have your solder connection. Now, when I take my heat shrink tubing and I slide it over the connection, you can see how much more of that, or how much of that wire is exposed now, because there isn't any. So the chances and likelihood that you're going to cause short circuits or connections with other components on the circuit board become virtually non-existent. So this is just one tip when it comes to installing resistors. So when you're soldering them to each of the FX3, 4, 5, and 6, you can cut those leads and kind of bend them up, because again, when you put the body shell on it, it's going to leave you a little bit of space on top. So guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@soundtraxx.com and ask them questions. And also be sure to check Webinar 8. Webinar number 8 is a soldering class where we do a lot more when it comes to teaching you about soldering and using the circuit boards and other wires and so forth. So guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.